So here's what I wrote down in some of my notes, and maybe this could be useful for people to think about. I have started, this is not necessarily like a practicing I guess it is a practicing mindfulness strategy, but it's not like an actual, like I'm sitting and I'm doing like a mindfulness practice, but I'm actually keeping a little notebook and I'm setting an alarm on my phone, and every couple of hours I'm writing down. I wrote at the top of the notebook, sad, angry, shame, joy, anxiety. I think I put envy in there too. And then I also put a general overall mood. So it's like along the top of the notebook. I'm like a scientist, so I love like tracking and collecting data. So for like several weeks, I've been writing down, I think I do it 3 times a day at different like time points. I write down whatever my emotions are in those categories. And then I have like on the backside, I'll write any notes that I want to remind myself, because I'm trying to determine what things at work drain me and what things at work nourish me. And I've got to say, the first week I did it, I was like not doing so great at work. I was like really anxious and sad. It was actually kind of hard to see. I thought, wow, I'm living my life like this. But then I thought, oh, now that I know, like I actually have more power to change it. So I've been talking to my boss about like some of the things that I don't want to be doing. And, some of them I have to, because that's life, I guess. And I can work on changing how I feel about them. But my mood, my emotions, I feel like have been more in my control at work. Like I am aware that I am feeling something. And one day I did it, and I was like, I didn't even know that I was so anxious today. No wonder I have been snapping at everyone. So I actually like asked someone if I could like take just a 30 or 60-minute meeting off. And I went for a really long walk, and I got like I tried to bring my own lunch, but I got like my favorite wrap from the restaurant nearby, and I like sat outside and ate it. And it totally changed like my entire day.
Oh, Hollie, well done. I have a couple questions about you. I want to nerd out for a minute. Yeah. This is your theory about tracking emotions, right? This is your hypothesis.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I just started doing it. I think it's a very psychology-based approach. So any of our listeners who have done cognitive behavioral therapy, DBT, a lot of evidence-based treatments have people track things. Say you want to spend less money, write down everything you spend money on. Say you want to drink less.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is all based on the theory of mindfulness.
Yeah.
So we've got all this research that if you want to change something, first you've got to track it and really understand it. And there's also this interesting phenomenon that watching something actually inherently sometimes changes it, because we're more aware of it.
Yep. That's why you see Weight Watchers weigh in every week and they do their measurements. That's why you see the spending in the budget. That's why you see coaches talk about revisiting your goals every day and how close you are to them. And your emotions are really weighted on the negative spectrum. Did you intentionally add just joy as the only positive? Or
I could add love. I don't feel a ton of love at work, but mine was a little bit more strategic, because I was feeling, I don't know if anybody else like resonates with this, or if this is my hunches, maybe other ladies feel this way. I don't know.
I know where you're going. I think you're right.
Yeah, I was feeling like really, I think I would say I was like an emotion smoothie of like mad, sad, anxious, and embarrassed. And I was not feeling very excited about certain things that I was doing. And I couldn't really understand it. I was like, what is happening that I'm feeling this way? So I figured, if I want to understand it, I'm going to need to become more aware of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. I would encourage you to add a column for inspired, maybe, or consider. I don't want to throw off your tracking, but
I do. I love that,
because you are so inspired. Every time I talk to you, you inspire me. But like your mind is always going, and I think those inspirations probably nourish you too.
Yeah, because I think sometimes I put my finger on one of the things that was happening at work, which is I think if I get like excited about something and then told like no, or that's like not helpful, or that's not going to work, I think I feel embarrassed and frustrated and sad. And then my inspiration goes down.
Yeah.
So the situation is that, I'm also a young woman and I'm kind of like coming into this system with a lot of ideas. So I realized, what are things I could tell myself in those moments that might change how I'm responding to them, and or like change, like maybe I keep getting excited about an idea, but I don't share it until I have more evidence that it'll work. So put the power back in my hands, whereas before I was just on autopilot, like here are my ideas and here's this and here's that, and I'm getting shot down left and right, and I'm like, I'm gonna go take a nap in my office now. Yeah. I mean, that might be kind of like, I don't know if that's more overwhelming for some people. I know, like, I suggested to my partner once, like, why don't you track things? And he was like, that's a lot. And so, I kind of think that's sort of my go-to. And that's probably like my own anxious behavior, is I want to just get all of the information. But, in the spirit of mindfulness, I think that's the fabulous thing, is it's anything that's bringing awareness. It's shining a light on either bringing you back to the moment, bringing you back to how you're feeling about something, how much you're spending, tracking things, all the way to I'm just taking a 1-minute walk and noticing the soles of my feet.
Well, and it's back to the theoretical underpinnings of DBT. It's like, this is where you are. Don't disregard that. Don't brush it off. Like, feel what you're feeling.
I think my main suggestion would be, if you're interested, it's hard because I feel like I have some friends who know way more about mindfulness than I even do. And so, when I'm talking to them about mindfulness, it's sort of, how can you level that up, all the way to, I explain mindfulness to my Nana, and I'm like, here's one way you could try. Like, you love the birds outside, like, just going to watch the bird for a minute. That's mindfulness. So if I were to suggest to people who are just interested in kind of learning about it, I would say there's also an app called Headspace that I think does a really great job explaining it. So this is a DBT mindfulness skill, and this is one I use all the time. This is a skill that's really designed to help you sort of zap yourself back to the present moment, but also stop yourself from doing something that you might later regret. I have a tendency to talk back, or no, maybe not talk back, like word vomit, say yes to something that I later am like, why did I do that?
Right.
So the skill is called stop. So I think it's easy to remember because, it's like, stop whatever I'm doing. So my boss is like, Hollie, could you do this for me? And she's handing me a bunch of stuff. And I'm like, stop. Like, I don't actually say stop, but in my mind, I'm like,
good. Okay.
I'm not like, stop. The stop skill is, the S stands for stop. Just stop whatever you're doing. This all happens pretty fast. So say my boss is like, here's a bunch of stuff I want you to do. So I stop. The T in the stop skill stands for take a step back. You don't have to literally take a step back. You can if you want to. Sometimes it helps me. Sometimes I'm like, whoa, I'm stepping back from the stuff you're handing me. But it's also just in your mind mentally sort of taking a step back, like what is happening right now? So I've stopped, I took a step back, and then the O stands for observe. So it's really quickly doing an observation of what is happening right now. My boss is giving me this task to do. I am already on my way to do something. Okay, I'm feeling kind of pressured. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed. That's the observe skill. Mm-hmm. It's sort of, I think of it's like you're the captain of a ship. And the captain of a ship, I grew up in Florida, so I've got a lot of boat metaphors. It's like if there was a leak and the captain was running around like, I don't know, just plug it up. That's like the opposite of observe. Instead, the captain's like, well, let's see what's causing the leak. The P then stands for proceed mindfully. So I also think it could be stop with an E at the end, because I think it's like proceed effectively. So my go-to, if I'm on autopilot, might be just to take whatever my boss is handing me and be like, fine, and then be freaking out about it. Or if I'm like really stressed out, be like, I can't do this right now. It's like super not effective with the boss, right? Like, oh my gosh. So if I stop, take a step back, observe what's going on, proceed effectively, I might be like, I'll take these, but I can't get this back to you by today.
Perfect.
And if she says, no, you have to get back to me today, I might broken record that. I can't, I've already got something to do. Or I might ask her, how important is it that I triage this to the top of my schedule today because I have a bunch of other things to do. And typically, if I ask her that, she's like, oh, actually, I'll give them to somebody else. Like it's no big deal. So my life has been a lot more manageable with this, like, stop, like, slow down. So I don't know. I actually, like, sometimes I'll keep, like, a little, my friend got married not too long ago and she gave us these, like, hair ties that are, like, really sparkly and big. Sometimes I'll wear them and that's, like, my stop reminder where I'm like, I'm stressed. Stop. Why am I so stressed right now? What does this person want from me? And it doesn't have to take a long time because, you know, I know it could be awkward at work if you're, like, people are giving you things and you're, like, staring at them. But, you know, what's funny is sometimes my, like, people at work who I want to be the most like or who are my inspirations are much slower. I ask them for something and they're, can I get back to you soon? So I think this is a way for those of you who are more like me that are more pulled into the frenetic chaos of work to practice sort of slowing down and being in the moment.
I love that. I'm thinking of a silly, I don't know, The Office with Steve Carell, the episode where Michael Scott is, Daryl comes to him and Michael Scott is negotiating back because Daryl wants a raise and Michael Scott doesn't want to give it. So Stop made me think of like he was exacerbating the techniques. Like, and the one is like, you be really quiet and you don't know, you don't articulate loudly so that the other person leans in and has to work harder to hear you. I think stop sort of, not that it's funny, but stop works the same way. If you're giving pause to that, I think it signals to the listener that you are being thoughtful and it's worth hearing. So it almost adds weight or value to what you do ultimately say. If you take that beat and go through stop, I think that's a real value add, even for your interpersonal PR, that you would be perceived as having something even more valuable to say.
You know, the interesting thing is because mindfulness is like a muscle, it's like, I gotta come back to it so often. It's like, it's like use it or lose it. So now that I'm saying this, I actually was thinking about how I was in a meeting the other day and could have used the stop skill, which I'm trying to stay in the present moment and not dwell on. But one of my students said something in a meeting the other day, and I reacted rather than responded. I feel like that's the difference between mindfulness and autopilot, is like reaction versus responding. You know,
reaction
what I mean?
Is like that primal fight or flight, no cognition behind it, just like immediately reacting. Whereas I think what you're saying as a response is the more mindful, full assessment with a thoughtful, the PE, perceive effectively or efficiently. What was the E?
I think I said effectively, but yeah.
Okay.
Proceeding effectively or mindfully. Yeah. You know, like when I'm in a fight with my beloved partner, it's like, I am just reacting. He's like, and you didn't walk the dog earlier. And I'm like, yes, I did. And then I'm like, wait, if he had said you didn't walk the dog earlier, I could be like, stop, take a step back.
Yeah.
Observe, perceive mindfully. Oh, I'm wondering why you think that. Because I actually did. You seem angry.
Right.
I'm observing that you seem very angry right now.
I have one, I didn't know this stop, but I had a call Friday from my boss, and it was mentioning some work that might be coming up, and it would be pulling me away from other things that I had prioritized. And frankly, I had mixed feelings about it. So it was just trying to be really conscientious about learning more before I respond. But I sure could have used stop. Like, that's exactly what I should have done before running my mouth. Even though I tried to meter it, like I did run my mouth a little more than I would have liked to.
You can never do it perfect, right? I mean, I'm practicing, this is for another day, but I'm practicing being just good enough, which is another skill we talk about, rather than aiming for perfection or just being average.
Yeah.
But
Have you read The Art of Essentialism?
What is it?
The Art of Essentialism. I may be butchering the title, but it's the latest essentialism book. It came out a couple of years ago. I'll link to it for those of you listening, and Holly, I'll send you the link. But he does this really great example, and we just talked about this last night, my husband and I. It's where like he doesn't want his kids to be straight A students. Like he wants them to experience what they enjoy. Not like he wants his kids to be completely average, like no pressure, like go through life and just do what you enjoy. That way we're not dampening our own experiences based on somebody else's arbitrary expectations. So powerful stuff.
I love that. Yeah. Being average is, for some people, I mean, I think, hearing that, sometimes I say that to clients and they're like, why do you want me to be average?
Right.
It's really freeing though. So I'm being average at my mindfulness.
I love that. Let's all be average together at mindfulness.